There's a strange paradox at work. You know the person everyone describes as so nice? They're usually the one who gets asked to stay late, the one who says yes to just one more thing, the one who listens to everyone else's problems, takes on the extra task, smooths over the conflict, fills the gaps, and somehow becomes the emotional shock absorber for the whole team. And here's the twist. That person is often the most exhausted, the most quietly resentful, and sometimes the most likely to fantasize about disappearing, quitting, or just never answering another message again. Research on pro-social behavior at work shows that constantly going beyond the call of duty can lead to role overload, stress, exhaustion, and even exploitation. Separate workplace research also links emotional exhaustion to higher turnover intentions. PubMed. So let's clear something up right away. Kindness is not the problem. Kindness is when you help because you want to, because you choose to, because you actually have something to give. But being too nice is something else. It's saying yes when your whole body wants to say no. It's laughing when you feel uncomfortable. It's staying quiet, not because you agree, but because conflict feels dangerous. It's performing peace while privately paying for it with your energy, your self-respect, and eventually your health. And if that sounds familiar, you are not weak. You are not broken. You may be running a survival strategy. 1. The science of fawning and survival. There's a strange stress response that doesn't get talked about enough. Most people know fight, flight, and freeze, but therapist Pete Walker helped popularize a fourth one, fawn. Fawning is what happens when your nervous system learns that the safest way to survive stress is to please, appease, soothe, cooperate, and make yourself non-threatening. It's not just being nice, it's an automatic adaptation built around safety. Pete Walker. So if you've ever looked back on a conversation and thought, why did I agree to that? Why did I apologize when I wasn't wrong? Why did I instantly abandon myself the second tension showed up? That may not be a personality flaw. That may be your nervous system doing exactly what it once learned kept you safe. And this starts making even more sense when you look at attachment theory. John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth showed that early relationships shape our working models for closeness, safety, and regulation. When caregiving is responsive and consistent, a child learns, my needs are okay. People can be trusted. I can be upset and still be loved. But when caregiving is inconsistent, rejecting, or unpredictable, children may become hyper-focused on keeping connections stable, sometimes by becoming extra compliant, hyper-attuned, or self-silencing. University of Illinois/attachment overview. In other words, some children don't learn, I am safe to be myself. They learn, I am safest when I am easy. I am safest when I don't need too much. I am safest when I read the room perfectly and become whoever the moment requires. And from an evolutionary perspective, that makes a terrifying kind of sense. Social rejection doesn't just feel bad in a poetic way. Research on social pain suggests that rejection, exclusion, and loss rely on some of the same neural alarm systems involved in physical pain. Not identical pain, but overlapping pain processing systems serious enough that your brain treats disconnection like a major threat. PubMed. So when you shrink yourself to keep the peace, your body may not experience that as a minor social preference. It may experience it as survival. That's why saying just speak up can feel absurdly hard, because your conscious mind is having a conversation while your nervous system thinks it's preventing abandonment. 2. The trap, agreeableness exploitation. Now let's talk about the trap. Call it agreeableness exploitation. People usually take the path of least resistance, not always because they're evil, sometimes because they're busy, sometimes because systems reward whoever never pushes back, and sometimes because humans, like water, flow where the ground is soft. So who absorbs the unpaid labor? The person who says, sure, no problem, who takes the extra shift, who rewrites the email, who remembers everyone's birthday, who manages everybody else's feelings, who gets labeled reliable when what's really happening is they've become the safest person to overuse.
Research on the dark side of pro-social behavior at work explicitly warns that constantly helping can lead to exhaustion and exploitation, including the feeling that no good deed is unpunished. Wharton/University of Pennsylvania, PubMed. So yes, some people really do notice the nice signal, the too fast smile, the instant apology, the nervous laugh, the total lack of pushback. That doesn't mean your kindness causes abuse. It means unguarded compliance can become visible. And once people learn that you will choose discomfort for yourself over discomfort for them, many of them will let you. 3. The dark side, the erosion of the authentic self. Here's one of the strangest symptoms of chronic people-pleasing. Someone asks, "What do you want?" and your mind goes blank. Not because you're indecisive, not because you're low maintenance, not because you're just easygoing, but because after years of scanning other people, managing other people, adapting to other people, you may have lost clear contact with your own internal signals. This is close to what many clinicians describe as an erosion of the authentic self. Measures like the Silencing the Self scale track patterns such as burying feelings to avoid conflict, acting happy on the outside while feeling angry inside, losing your sense of who you are in close relationships, and feeling that other people don't know your real self. UC San Diego/Silencing the Self scale. So that is such an important point, so let me say it slowly. When you suppress authentic emotions long enough, the emotions do not disappear. They go underground. They come back as quiet resentment, as exhaustion, as overthinking, as passive aggression, as anxiety that seems to have no reason. You smile, you help, you accommodate, and inside another part of you is whispering, "Why does nobody ever ask what I need?" But the brutal truth is, if you've trained everyone to meet the version of you that never needs anything, they may never realize there's a real, tired, angry, grieving human underneath. 4. Why just set boundaries doesn't work. This is why the advice to just set boundaries is so useless for many people pleasers. Because if fawning is a survival response, then a boundary is not just a communication skill, it is a biological event. To someone with a calm nervous system, saying no might feel mildly awkward. To a chronic people pleaser, saying no can feel like danger, guilt, shame, loss, rejection, exposure, abandonment. So when people say, "just be more assertive," what you hear is just casually walk into the emotional experience your body has spent years trying to prevent. That's why insight alone often doesn't fix this. Pete Walker's description of fawning emphasizes that these habits become deeply wired and automatic, and attachment theory helps explain why relational threat can feel so powerful long after childhood. Pete Walker, University of Illinois/Fraley Attachment Overview. So you don't heal people-pleasing by shaming yourself into better boundaries. You heal it by teaching your nervous system slowly and repeatedly that authenticity is survivable. 5. The solution, rewiring the nervous system. So here's where we go practical. Not performative, not motivational poster advice, actual rewiring. Step 1. Notice without acting. For 1 week, don't try to become a whole new person. Just notice. Notice the exact moment before you agree to something. Do you feel dread? Pressure in your chest? A little spike of panic? A weird burst of relief when you say yes, even if the yes hurts you? That moment matters, because that is the handoff point between choice and autopilot. Your only job this week is to witness it. No fixing, no forcing, no big dramatic confrontation. Just catch your pattern in real time and name it. There it is, that's the fear. There it is, that's the urge to earn safety. When you notice a survival pattern without instantly obeying it, you begin separating awareness from compulsion. Step 2. Practice the smallest possible no. Do not start with your boss, your parent, your partner, or the most emotionally loaded person in your life. Start tiny. Say no to something low stakes, a store rewards program, an optional call, a favor you genuinely don't want to do, a suggestion for food you don't actually want. And here's the important part. Do not over-explain. Do not rush in with a 10-line apology. Do not turn your no into a hostage negotiation. Just try, no, I can't. Not this time. I'm going to pass. Then let the discomfort happen, because the goal is not to feel instantly confident. The goal is to let your nervous system discover, I said no, and the world did not end. That is exposure therapy for over-accommodation. Step 3. Reframe guilt. This one changes everything. When you start prioritizing yourself, you will probably feel guilty. And most people pleasers make one huge mistake. They interpret guilt as proof. Proof they were selfish, proof they were mean, proof they did something wrong, proof they're about to be rejected. But guilt is not always a moral signal. Sometimes it is just an old alarm. Sometimes guilt
I
simply
did
means
something unfamiliar. I interrupted a habit. I disappointed a pattern. I chose self-respect over automatic peacekeeping. So the next time guilt shows up after a healthy boundary, try this sentence. This feeling does not mean I'm in danger. It means I'm doing something new. That is how rewiring begins. Not with the disappearance of guilt, but with a new interpretation of it. So if you've been too nice for too long, let me tell you something you may need to hear. You were probably not born believing your needs were inconvenient. You learned that. You learned to monitor. You learned to soften. You learned to preempt conflict. You learned to trade authenticity for belonging. And if you learned it, you can unlearn it. Slowly, awkwardly, with shaky hands and a racing heart sometimes. But every time you notice before complying, every time you tell a small truth, every time you survive a no, every time you stop treating guilt like danger, you teach your body a new story. I do not have to disappear to be safe. I do not have to be easy to be loved. I do not have to earn belonging by abandoning myself. And that might be the moment your life starts changing. Not because you became less kind, but because your kindness finally stopped excluding you.